Good day, good day. My name is Professor Brian Copeland, and I'm here today to have a chat with Professor Patrick Hosein. And Patrick has been chosen as a laureate in the Science and Technology category for the 2015 Anthony N. Sabga Caribbean Awards for Excellence. So we'll have a quick talk with him about all his achievements, and perhaps we can gain something that can help some of the young people in the country aspire to the great heights that he has achieved. Patrick, welcome.
Thank you, Brian.
And congratulations on the award.
Thank you.
And joining the University of West Indies, we're quite happy to have you as a professor. I'm wondering if you could start by giving us a quick background on Patrick Hosein and who he is, coming up maybe through high school and getting into, as I see here on your record, at MIT, where you've done very, very well. Maybe you can give us a quick summary there.
Let me give you the quick version. So I was born here in Curep. Actually went to Curep Presbyterian School, then on to St. Mary's College, where I did pure maths, physics, usual stuff in those days for people like myself.
E-levels, yes.
And then I got a scholarship, a government scholarship to attend MIT, did my bachelor's, had in electrical engineering, but had an extra year because I was able to complete it in 3 years.
You did a 4-year program in 3 years.
Right, so I did another degree in mathematics during the additional year. Then I did my master's degree. Yeah. Then I did an engineer's degree, which is a more practical oriented degree, more advanced than master's. And then finally a PhD.
Okay.
And then after that I continued on to industry. Briefly, but then I returned to Trinidad, to UE, your department.
Yes, I remember.
Well, your faculty, and worked with you as well as others before returning to the US, where I spent another 15 years working in industry at places like Bell Labs, AT&T Labs, Ericsson, Huawei. And then 3 years ago, I decided I needed to come back, or I wanted to come back to help the country, especially in ICT. And so I am back in the computer science department.
So I want to roll it back a bit then. You were at MIT.
Yes.
It's a very prestigious college. Everybody knows of MIT and its great achievements. You have 5 degrees from MIT. How does one really go about getting 5 degrees from MIT?
Well, I didn't go about trying to achieve that. It just so happened, as I said, the first 2 degrees I got was, I got this additional degree in mathematics because of the extra time I had.
Yeah, so it was joint at
it
the same time
joint.
as the
same time, 4 years, but I did the requirements for both degrees.
So 2 degrees in 3 years?
Well, in 4 years.
All right, okay.
And then the master's, and then, well, so the normal procedure in these US universities is you need a master's degree before you you could do a PhD. I did get accepted to the PhD program after my bachelor's degree, but I was required to do the master's program first.
I see.
So I did that. And then this engineer's degree sort of came in a little bit for free. It required some additional work, but minor work. So I figured, why not just do it on the way to PhD and then finally the PhD.
That's amazing. So at least some lessons there. What I'd like to look at right now is the fact that for your PhD you work with one Michael Athans, who, I mean, I did an area of electrical engineering called control systems, and he was like, you know, the star at the time. So it's great that you work with someone like that. But you also work with one Amar Bose, I know from our conversation. I don't know if you want to tell the viewers a little bit about that experience. I mean, Bose as in Bose electronics, Bose speakers, Bose amplifiers, and so on. So.
Oh yeah, before I left Trinidad, I grew up in the 70s, and as you know, the 70s was disco and DJs and
that's right.
Electronics.
I was there. Yeah.
And I was into the electronics and with speaker systems, and we kind of overdid it in those days, but the whole idea of designing speaker enclosures and the crossovers, etc., was intriguing to me. So when I started at MIT and I found out that Professor Amar Bose was a professor there, you know, of course I took his course on acoustics, and I did very well in it because I loved it. The acoustic course entails a lot of electronics, well, electrical engineering. So I did his course, I did well in it, and then I went on to be his teaching assistant for two years. And that's where I learned a lot from him. He was a mentor. He taught me a lot, not only about teaching, but about life in general, about enjoying what you do. Forget about the money, it will come. And then I was also fortunate to work at his company for one summer. It was at that time, it was a proprietary project.
Yeah.
So I did some simulation work with him. So yeah, it was fantastic working with him, and unfortunately he passed away.
Yes,
a few years ago.
God bless his soul. He did. It was a sad loss, I thought, to the industry. I know he passed on a lot of his intellectual property ownership to MIT.
Yes, yes.
And his shares in the company, I think, as well.
Exactly. Yes. Well, one thing I should mention though is his son has his own company now. His son works in an area called SDR, Software Defined Radio.
Oh, okay.
And actually, when I was at TA, he was one of the students. So
okay.
it's really
That's interesting.
Interesting, yeah.
Interesting. I want to talk a little bit about your professional life. You work with Hawaii, you work with Bell Labs, you work with ADT. A lot of your work seem to have some impact on digital communication, am I right?
Yes.
ICT and so on. But I'm particularly interested in the area of the patents. You have something like, according to what I'm seeing here, 38 granted patents and 42 pending. That's an awful number of patents. And patents, patenting is an area that Trinidad is only just really, looking into in a great way.
Okay.
So to have someone on board who has that many, albeit from their professional activity, part of the job scenario, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about it in terms of, for example, as we were discussing earlier, the whole area of use of these patents, the process that the companies went through in terms of identifying what areas of work they'd like to actually spend the money for patenting exercises. And we can take the conversation from there. That whole area of patenting, as you know, is very much something that I'm interested in, and certainly the university at large, and a lot of students now are devising projects for which they're sort of targeting patenting.
Okay, so let me start with the whole process, because it is a intense process.
Yeah.
So different companies have different processes, but essentially they all have, it's similar. So in the case of Bell Labs, where I got my first patent, you work on a project, you develop a novel idea, or you think it's novel. First thing you need to do is a committee will be formed with experts. Now, at Bell Labs, getting experts is easy.
I know.
In that particular area. Yeah. So a committee of experts would be formed, and they would evaluate the novelty of the idea, an algorithm or whatever. And they would determine whether or not the company should go forward. Now, you have to remember that most of these international companies file these patents globally, US, PCT office in Europe, China, etc., because they need to cover it worldwide. So it is expensive, and so no company wants to invest in a patent unless they could have a good sense of some reward in the future. So this is done at the first stage, and that's the most difficult stage, because these experts know this stuff. The second stage is it now goes to the patent attorney within the company. The patent attorney would then do their searches online and through their patent office to determine if there's anything similar or if something along the same lines has been done in the past in a different technology, etc. Once they've determined it's a novel idea, they then file the patent. And then, of course, the patent office now has to go through the process of evaluating it and doing the same thing. So basically, these three hurdles. But once you pass the first one, out of all the patents I've filed, none of them have been rejected because once you pass that first hurdle,
the first hurdle at the company stage.
These experts know what is good and what is bad.
But you would have had work that may have been rejected. I don't want to sound negative. You may have done some work that would have been rejected at the first stage, no doubt.
Actually, to be honest, no. I am very particular about what I submit as an idea.
Okay. A bit of diligence.
I do my homework as well.
Right.
If I have an idea, I would do my searches, talk to people, and in many cases, I would have an idea that is to me is very simple, and I would be discussing it with a fellow PhD colleague, and he would say, "Wow, that's something you should file a patent on." And I would say, "Well, why?" And he said, "Well, I've worked in this area and I haven't really seen that approach before." So it's so I normally would do a thorough work myself.
But I'm seeing as well that the patents, you say patents, I say patents.
Sorry,
so
I still have my US, a little bit of my US accent.
No apology needed, I think we all know it. But I see that they have been utilized, well, at least from the point of view of citations, and I know you probably get some royalties from some of these as well. But you can't really say where they've been used.
Right. Well, first of all, I personally get no royalties. Once you join these companies, you sign the contract says that any IP belongs to the company. So normally when you file a patent, they will give you some bonus for it.
I see.
Then when it's granted, you get something else. Now once, as I said, the company would not file something unless they see some use for it, whether it's included it in a product, or whether it's for license fees, or whether they think it's something that will be of potential use in the future. So I have cases of all three where when I work with the standards bodies, so the standards bodies would work on the next generation of the technology. So right now they're working on 5G. So when I work with these bodies, we would come up with ideas that we think could go into the standards. And by doing so, once it's in the standards, the company will get royalty fees later on. Okay. Whereas I also worked on ideas that were forward-looking. So one idea I worked on in 2000, it's only now possible to deploy that because of the technology. But luckily, these companies, in that particular case, it was Ericsson. They have the foresight to see, well, okay, this could be potentially valuable in the future.
Okay. We're actually getting close to the end of the interview. It goes very quickly, as you can tell. I wanted you to, as quickly as you could, without rushing, talk about Trinidad and Tobago and that whole environment of patenting, innovation, building innovation culture. Of course, the end result is that you potentially could increase your GDP from it. But I'm wondering, from your perspective, having worked so long in these companies, high-flying companies, and then coming to Trinidad and Tobago, what do you see is needed for us to make a good move on this?
Okay, well, first of all, education. We have a very solid education. I'll admit it's not as good as in the 70s when we went to school. But what we need is more creative students. We need to create students who spend more time on creativity. And especially in the university. So what I'm trying to do now, at least with the graduate classes I'm involved in, is introduce more opportunities for students to demonstrate their creativity.
And nurture it as well.
And nurture it. Now, we talk a lot about innovation, but it's mostly, we look at mobile apps and web apps, but these are, to be blunt, superficial, because the real novelty comes in the background, in the back end, where you do all the data processing and the manipulation, the algorithms you develop. If you take Google, for instance, I mean, they are worth so much money because of the time and money spent in developing the search algorithm they developed. So it will take some time for us to get there, but I think we have the students to do it, and we just need to train them. Okay.
So, Patrick, I really would like to thank you for being here. I know there's a lot more that we'd like to have said, but I really like to thank you for coming, and I'd like to congratulate you again on this award. I think it is really truly deserved, and it is also very timely because of the basis upon which the award was given. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Right, and all the best for the future.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Okay.
Okay.